In early 2021, 39-year-old Maya Millete lived in this San Miguel Ranch neighborhood in Chula Vista. She was a mother of 3, a contract specialist for the Navy, and actively reaching out to attorneys to file for divorce. On the afternoon of January 7th, a home security camera recorded her walking through her front door. No camera ever caught her walking out. Prior to that afternoon, Maya gave her sister Maricris a specific warning. If anything ever happened to her, investigators needed to look at her husband, Larry. Maya evaporated from her own house without a trace. A woman surrounded by neighborhood cameras and family members vanished, leaving no physical tracks for the police to follow. When police served search warrants at the Millete home, the physical environment offered nothing. They found multiple firearms belonging to Larry, but no signs of a struggle, no bloodstains, and no evidence of a cleanup. Detectives impounded a Lexus SUV that Larry reportedly drove the day after his wife vanished. When canine units swept the interior of the vehicle, the dogs detected zero trace of human remains. This created a massive problem for the legal system. Prosecutors had no murder weapon to present to a jury. They had no DNA to test. They had no confession, and no victim to examine. In the tangible world, Larry Millete executed a flawless disappearance. He forced investigators into an absolute physical dead end. When a suspect successfully wipes their physical tracks, modern investigators pivot. They stop looking at the floorboards and start looking at the cloud to reconstruct the suspect's digital shadow. Device extractions showed 2 very different mindsets. Maya's browser data reflected a woman planning her future. She was looking up child support calculators and checking how much mortgage she could qualify for on a single income. Larry's search history showed a deep dive into control. In the months before his wife vanished, he was researching sedatives and subliminal messaging. That contrast in browser data shifted the entire focus of the investigation. The police no longer needed to rely solely on finding a body. They could build a case on documented psychological intent. Detectives uncovered a massive 1,700-page communication log. Records showed Larry spent over $1,100 on 70 distinct transactions, paying internet spellcasters to target his wife. This timeline tracks the volume and nature of those requests. Starting in September 2020, you see the initial cluster of data points. Here, Larry was paying for a powerful love spell to bind Maya to him and stop the divorce. By October, the data line spikes, and the requests turn toward physical harm. He explicitly asked the spellcasters to incapacitate his wife, requesting that she suffer broken bones at an accident that would leave her dependent on him. Pushing into December, the visualization reaches peak frequency. The messages escalated into demands for severe, near-death illnesses, intended to isolate Maya so that only Larry and the children would be with her. Then, the data points abruptly drop off. On January 7, 2021, the precise day Maya walked into her house and disappeared, all requests for harm ceased. At 5:55 a.m. the very next morning, Larry sent a new instruction. He asked the online spellcasters to lift the hexes he had placed on Maya and redirect them toward a coworker he believed she was involved with. Larry spent months making sure his home contained no physical evidence of a crime. But while he scrubbed his physical surroundings, he was busy authoring 1,700 pages that mapped his state of mind in the exact window his wife vanished. In May 2026, San Diego prosecutors brought Larry Millete to trial. They pursued a first-degree murder conviction without a body, relying strictly on that digital footprint and the timeline of his actions. The defense presented a different theory. Maya left on her own. They argued she slipped out the backyard, walked through a drainage ditch to dodge the neighborhood cameras, and chose to permanently abandon her 3 children. The jury deliberated for less than 5 hours before returning a guilty verdict. The forewoman later noted that without those spellcasting messages, a conviction likely wouldn't have happened. For them, the messages provided the context needed to reach a unanimous decision. The legal standard for murder requires proving intent. In this courtroom, a meticulous record of what a suspect typed into a search bar or sent to a stranger proved to be just as decisive as finding a weapon at the scene. But a guilty verdict does not close the reality of the case. Larry Millete faces 25 years to life in prison, yet Maya's body has never been found. Volunteer groups continue methodically walking through the punishing terrain of Otay Lakes and the Anza Borrego Desert, searching for any trace of her. Digital data can map the intent of a killer and secure a life sentence behind bars, but it cannot recover what was taken, leaving a family forever trapped in the physical void. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely chilling, totally modern investigation. We're looking at exactly how detectives managed to pull off the impossible, securing a first-degree murder conviction without a body, without a weapon, and without a confession. So how do you convict a man of murder when literally all the traditional physical evidence is just gone? Well, the answer lies in the digital world, specifically a bizarre and terrifying paper trail that the killer actually created himself. But before we get into the digital forensics, we have to start with this haunting warning. If anything ever happens to me, look at my husband. Those were the exact words 39-year-old Maya Millete gave to her family before she vanished from her Chula Vista, California home on January 7, 2021. Maya was a mother of 3, and she was getting ready to leave her marriage of 20 years. In fact, she'd actually reached out to a divorce attorney that very afternoon. Later that day, a camera outside her front door recorded her walking into the house, and tragically, no camera ever caught her walking back out. Fast forward 5.5 years to July 9, 2026. Her husband, Larry Millete, was convicted of her murder. And the real focus of our explainer today is how investigators actually achieved this. They pulled it off largely because police painstakingly tracked financial records and IP addresses to uncover his purchase of exactly 70 online spells. Yes, you heard that right, 70 spells ordered over the internet. Let's break down exactly how this totally unprecedented digital footprint sealed his fate. Section 1. A murder without a body. To truly grasp how revolutionary this conviction was, we've got to look at the massive hurdle investigators faced right out of the gate. There was just this stark contrast between the physical and digital realities of the case. On the physical side, investigators had zero trace, no body, no weapon. Even when a K-9 unit searched a Lexus SUV that Larry allegedly drove to Solana Beach the day after Maya vanished, the dogs detected absolutely zero human remains. But on the digital side, man, they struck an absolute goldmine. They uncovered 1,700 pages of Spellcaster emails and search histories. It was an inescapable mountain of data that he had meticulously typed out all by himself. Now, you might be wondering, did a jury really convict a man based on internet spells? Actually, yes. The jury forewoman explicitly stated to reporters that the spellcasting evidence was completely decisive. She called this digital trail a massive puzzle and admitted that without these specific messages mapping out his mindset, the jury likely wouldn't have reached a guilty verdict at all. Section 2. Tracking 70 online spells. So how exactly did investigators map out this bizarre digital footprint? I mean, how do you take the purchase of internet hexes and turn it into a watertight murder case? Well, detectives followed the money and the metadata. By matching credit card transactions to IP addresses and timestamps, they figured out that over a 5-month period, from September 2020 to January 2021, Larry spent exactly $1,154.05 on these online spellcasters. That cash bought roughly 70 different spells. And because these transactions required constant communication with the spellcasters, strangers selling their services over the internet, Larry ended up generating those 1,700 pages of written requests. He was basically documenting his own motive in real time. Section 3. From Love to Broken Bones. What's truly terrifying here isn't just the sheer volume of the emails, it's how his online records document this escalating timeline of tragedy as the marriage deteriorated. In September 2020, prosecutors showed that his requests started out as these kind of desperate love spells. He asked to bind Maya to him forever, but as she pulled away, the requests morphed. By October, he's asking for her to be incapacitated. By December, he's actually paying for spells intended to make her severely ill, literally close to death, so she'd be isolated with only him and the children. And then, on January 7th, Maya vanishes. Look at these exact documented words he sent to internet strangers. He explicitly asked for an accident that would leave her suffering broken bones. He wanted her entirely dependent on him. This wasn't just him venting. This was a recorded, escalating desire to see his wife physically harmed, permanently locked away in his digital outbox. Section 4. The Digital Paper Trail. The spellcasting emails were really just one piece of the puzzle, though. Digital forensics revealed 2 totally different realities playing out under the exact same roof. While Maya was searching for a way out, looking up child support calculations and seeing how much of a single mortgage she could afford to build a new life, Larry's search history showed a super dark fixation on control. He was searching for terms related to sedatives and subliminal messaging. It's a really chilling split screen of their final months together.
But the absolute turning point in the digital investigation happened the morning after Maya was last seen on their home security camera, January 8th, 2021, at exactly 5:55 in the morning. At 5:55 a.m., everything abruptly pivots. Larry sent a new urgent message to his spellcasters with two very distinct steps. Step 1, remove every single hex he had placed on Maya. Step 2, redirect all of those violent curses toward a coworker that prosecutors say Maya had been involved with. For investigators, this right here was the smoking gun. Think about it. Why would he suddenly stop trying to harm his wife the very morning after she disappeared? The prosecution argued it was simply because he knew she was already gone. This digital evidence completely shattered his alibi. It just starkly contrasts the public face he was putting on. On January 13, less than a week after she vanished, Larry went on local television pleading, "I love you, honey, just come back home." But the police, armed with his metadata, they knew his private reality. They knew that just days prior, he was busy redirecting violent hexes to her coworker. Section 5. Maya is still missing. Now, as fascinating and groundbreaking as this forensic data tracking is, we really must anchor this explainer back to the tragic human reality at the core of this story. Today, the legal status is concrete. Deputy District Attorney Christy Bowles successfully used cyber evidence to secure a first-degree murder conviction. Larry faces 25 years to life in state prison, though he's currently awaiting sentencing pending the resolution of an old weapons charge. But the physical reality, it's just agonizing. Maya's body has never been found. Despite hundreds of volunteers combing the Anza Borrego Desert and other areas for years, nothing has turned up, which means 3 children have no burial site, no answers, and no place to grieve their mother. The ultimate irony of this tragic case is pretty glaring. Larry spent 5 months meticulously paying to control, bind, and curse his wife. And because he left that exact digital footprint, he's likely going to spend 25 years to life in a prison cell. In fact, he's already spent more time behind bars waiting for trial than he ever did trying to make her disappear. Which leaves us with this haunting final question. A cyber footprint of 70 spells was enough to close the legal case and convince a jury of murder beyond a reasonable doubt. But physically, out there in the real world, where is Maya Millete? Justice might have been served on paper, but the real-world search for a mother of 3 remains painfully, heart-wrenchingly unresolved. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning and keep asking.